Welcome inside the podcast studio for another episode of Altitude Advantage. I am your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, as always, we have our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. And it is another AFC West rival coming into town as the Broncos host the Kansas City Chiefs at Empire Field at Mile High. We're going to break down this matchup, talk about some of the comments you guys left us from past shows, really take a look at this AFC West picture as well as the entire AFC as a whole, and break down this matchup, which is what we love to do on our Thursday episodes. I cannot believe it's week 11. It's another, as I mentioned, another AFC West rival coming in back-to-back weeks. I'm excited to see how this Broncos team does because I feel like it's been so long since we've seen them, and I know it was just Thursday, but it's been too long. Having withdrawals.
Yeah, it's only been a week. But
10 days.
Well, since we're recording on Thursday, it's been one. Oh, hasn't even been a week.
I have to wait 3 more days for game day.
That's true. Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Well, I'm gonna be snuggled up in this amazing hoodie because it's the item of the game. Bang bang.
Little camo action.
Because you're not gonna see me coming, just like you're not gonna see this Broncos win coming. It's gonna just hit you in the face.
Hopefully you see it coming. I'd like to see it coming.
A lot of people don't. That's what we're here to break down. But yes, You guys can get this hoodie at the team store. My favorite place. I was at the stadium earlier, so I had to pop in real quick.
Oh yeah, just say hello. Say hello. Make sure they remember you.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's been a week. It's too long.
They're like, who are you? It's a big game, and I think that we've heard from several guys say that Nick Bonito put it well on Thursday Night Football last week. If we want to win this division, if the Broncos want to end the Chiefs' streak of 9 consecutive division titles, you got to go through them. And it's a little interesting because the Broncos are 8-2, the Chiefs are 5-4. It's not currently neck and neck. The Broncos have a little bit of a lead, but I think for all intents and purposes, if you can get this one, you get a sizable lead in the division. I think you signal to everybody that you're ready to take this thing. And not that it's over if you don't win, but there's a chance. I think that's why some people have said, hey, there's more pressure on Kansas City because they fall. If they lose this game, they'd be 4 games behind, essentially 3.5, depending on how you want to look at it, with different numbers of games played. But Kansas City needs this one to keep pace, whereas Denver has a chance to really kind of cement themselves as the division favorite. We talked about last week a 75% chance of winning the division if you win this game on Sunday against the Chiefs. And it'll be a good test. I think that, obviously, we'll talk about this a little bit. The Broncos are a little bit banged up, but they've played the Chiefs well in recent years. They've always played them tough, even though it took a little bit to get that win and to end that long losing streak against Kansas City. But Sean Payton said it on Wednesday. This is the team, the sustained success, the coach, the players, the GM, even the ownership. Like, this is what we're all working to be. Yeah. And so it's a big game. The Broncos have earned the right to play in this game, and yet there are still, hopefully for the Broncos, bigger games ahead. And so you can't outsize the importance, and yet you do have to recognize that, hey, this is a really big opportunity at home on Sunday.
A huge opportunity, not only to extend your overall winning streak of 7 games, but your home winning streak. And one of the things that I talked to the guys in the locker room was about how important it is playing at home. And Mike McGlinchey, with a smile on his face, said, Broncos country has been unbelievable this season. And he's like, granted, we're giving them a lot to be excited about, but that's what we want. We want home field advantage. We want people to come into Empower Field at Mile High and know that it's a tough place to play, not only for the elevation, but for the noise, for the crowd. One of my favorite shots every game day is the orange wall, and the way that before each game you just see all the placards going up and down. And it's great to see. And not only as a sports fan, but I know it sets the mood and intensity that we're going to see. But you know what else sets the mood? Some good comments. And I know that that's one of your favorite things to look at. So what's going on in the YouTube space?
Yeah, we'll head over to our the Broncos official YouTube page from last week's show, or I guess earlier this week's show, talking about the AFC playoff race, talking about Week 11. As you might expect, a lot of comments here about Alex Singleton. We recorded this right after he made his announcement about his successful surgery for testicular cancer. Obviously, still thinking about Alex. He said he's not going to play this week, obviously. So the Broncos will have to replace him on the field, but certainly know that he's going to be kind of be there in spirit. But to get to some of the comments, Anthony Noseda No say-it-all. One of those.
Know it all?
No, I don't think so. We'll go with Anthony.
Okay.
Alex is amazing. Played on a broken knee last year and now played with cancer. He's a great person, one of the strongest people I've ever heard of. We need to make sure he goes through. I don't know what's going on here. Broncos country loves him. I think that's kind of
that's the overall message.
That's the message.
We do love Alex.
Mr. Ty says the epitome of toughness. Orlando said Alex is the epitome of a Bronco, hardworking, humble, leaves everything out on the field. Hope you have a speedy recovery. We need our captain out there. Jeremy says my prayers go out to Alex. Get well soon and go Broncos. Bulwark Tier, he's a great inspiration and a role model for young people.
He is.
Robert Barlow said Alex isn't a human, he's a machine. Nobody is stronger than Alex. He will return and finish his career as a Bronco. He is a Denver Bronco. That last part is definitely true. That's a fact.
Hashtag analysis.
And then some other comments here. Dylan Dean, spicing it up a little bit. He says, as of today, 11/10, so this was a couple days ago,
Right.
it has been a calendar year since the Chiefs have scored a single point against the Denver Broncos.
Hashtag analysis.
That's true. Obviously, the first game last year was more than a calendar year ago, and Denver shut out the Chiefs 38-0 in Week 18 last year. So that's a fact. We deal in facts. That's a fact.
Facts. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
Tone Van Tool. Okay. I will be at the game on Christmas. Go Broncos, I believe.
Nice.
Okay.
Bundle up.
And then
Have
Terrell.
someone go to the team store and get you this sweater and ship it to
That
you.
might not be warm enough for.
It's pretty warm. I'm pretty cozy.
There's no way it's going to be warm enough to wear just a sweatshirt in Kansas City on Christmas. It's cold. Terrell Lambert says, if we play a little cleaner all around as far as penalties and offensive efficiency, the best team in the league. And then Mr. TY, he jumps back in. You are what your record says you are. And the Broncos are 8-2. So that
Guess that's what we're 8-2 then.
I think that's kind of what we were saying. Doesn't matter what it looks like. 8-2 is important. That's the comments for this week. If you want to leave a comment, go to the Broncos official YouTube page and leave it right there. We might read it on the air.
Yeah.
I know that one of our coworkers has been listening
Yes.
and lurking. No commenting, but listening and lurking. If you're out there, you know who you are. Maybe leave a nice comment.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, we do.
I appreciate you.
Well, you don't think I do?
Do you?
I appreciate. Yeah, of course.
You did. That's why you brought him up. That's why you brought it up.
Oh, him. Yeah, see, you're
I said brought him.
Identity being divulged here. Good say. Maybe we'll say something good in this episode that'll end up in a hype video.
Maybe. Well, that's what we hope. But again, this matchup going into Week 11 in the AFC, it's such a tight race, right? And obviously, as we're recording this, Thursday Night Football has not happened, but you have the Patriots, the Colts, and the Broncos all tied for first place in the AFC. Patriots are 8-2. They play tonight on Thursday Night Football. Then you have the Colts who have their bye week, and then the Broncos who face the Chiefs this week. So in terms of AFC West picture and AFC overall, it's really interesting to see how this week is going to play out. A big test, 9 divisional games across the league for Week 11. And this matchup is fun because everyone has different games circled. But I feel like for a lot of Broncos country, this is the game you had circled. It's the Chiefs. We know what they've been able to do in this division. And now it's time to see how you stack up against them. When you look back at that game in Kansas City, one of the things that stands out aside from the play on the field was after and Patrick Mahomes telling, Sean Payton, you got a guy there that's really going to, be great for you guys in the future. And we look forward to these battles, right? Just like people look forward to Patrick Mahomes going against Josh Allen. Like this is starting to become one of those things where you're excited to watch this matchup and what they're going to put on the field. And it's a big test, not only for this division, but for the AFC in its entirety. As you mentioned, the Broncos are starting to play for more. They want to play for a home playoff game. They want to play for different spots within the playoff race. So each game is starting to matter more.
Yeah, and we obviously, our old friend Suze works for the Jets now. Maybe she could do us a favor and beat New England tonight. That could be nice.
I mean, it's the least she could do.
That's true. If she was grateful at all to be on this podcast, she would make sure the Jets beat the Patriots on Thursday night. I assume she's listening right now. It's almost game time. Nothing nothing else to do. Yes, the Broncos. I think one of the ways that this game changes things is that if you win this game, I think it's not out of the question that you turn your attention toward, can we get the number 1 seed in the AFC? And obviously you're tied right now, like you mentioned, with the Patriots, with the Colts, but the Colts have a tough schedule coming up.
Yeah.
The Patriots, hopefully find a loss or two in there somewhere, but if you can signify that you can beat a team like the Chiefs at home, then you start looking at the rest of the schedule and think there's really not a game that you can't win. And we'll see how it all plays out. But if you can get to a record of like 13-4, like you start getting up that high, now you're talking about having a real chance at the number 1 seed. And so this game is important from a division standpoint, but it also really matters in terms of the AFC is wide open, and can you get that elusive bye that especially in a playoff kind of setup right now that seems like there's going to be a lot of teams that are really close, really similar. If you can avoid playing an extra game and be the one team that gets to do that, that would be a huge advantage. I think big picture when you look at this game, and I know we'll get into a lot of different things, but you kind of mentioned that game last year. I actually think that in some ways, well, not in some ways, just kind of in general, you've seen the Broncos under Sean Payton close the gap to the Chiefs and show that you not just can compete, but you can win. And the Broncos in 2023 break that long win streak that the Chiefs had at home in pretty convincing fashion. They force 5 turnovers. And then last year in Kansas City, you hold the Chiefs to 16 points. You find a way to put yourself in position to kick that game-winning field goal. Unfortunately, obviously, it was blocked. It was a very difficult loss. Broncos were able to respond. But for all intents and purposes, the last 2 times you've gone head-to-head, the Broncos have played just as well, if not better, than Kansas City. And we heard Sean Payton say that last year in Kansas City, that one of the reasons that game hurt was because he thought the team outplayed the Chiefs. And so I think, and you mentioned that there's not a lot of people nationally that believe the Broncos can win this game. You look at the NFL predictions, for example, and Adam Rank, our guy, is the only one who's picking the Broncos to win this football game.
Yeah.
The other, there's maybe 7 or 8 other people. They're picking Kansas City to win this football game. But I think when you look at it, the way that the Broncos have played the Chiefs recently, whether it's that game in Denver 2 years ago, whether it is the game in Arrowhead last year where really it came down to the wire and you had a good chance to win that football game, you've shown that you can go toe-to-toe with these guys. I think Vance Joseph's defense, and we'll talk more about this, but the pressure he brings, you match up well. And the big thing will be, how do you survive these injuries? And we can talk a little bit about that. But I think big picture, this is a game that the Broncos have shown they can play this team close. And so there is this, to some degree, I think it's like there's still this national idea of, hey, the Chiefs are Super Bowl champs and they've made it to the Super Bowl, 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row. And so there's this certain idea of what they are versus what the Broncos are, who some of maybe don't have the style points. Yeah. And so the Broncos are going to have to go prove themselves. But because of those 2 games, and I'm leaving out that 38-0 just because it was against the Chiefs' reserve players. But man, I just think the way the Broncos have competed against these guys the last couple times, this is going to be a close game that the Broncos are in. And I'm not saying they're going to win, because I think when you have 2 heavyweight teams like this, you never really know. But I think they're going to be right in it, and they're going to have a real good chance to earn this win.
As I've talked to players, Hall of Famers, and different people, they always tell me it doesn't matter. Those rivalry games in your division are just different. Like, something always happens. It's always like some moment in the game that you think you're prepared for, and it kind of just catches you off guard. Now, it's how you respond to those and recapture that momentum that really makes a difference. And the Chiefs are 0-4 in one-score games this season. They went 11-0 last year in one-possession games. The Broncos, I believe, are 6-2, if I'm not mistaken, in one-score games this season. So you want to see that flip, right? Because that was one thing last season, that the Broncos were just one play away, one step away from capturing a win and really going on a run. They've been able to do that this season. And, when stats are one thing, right? And I know the AFC West, the AFC is all important, but you ask this team, you ask anybody in that locker room, The most important game is the Chiefs game, and that's only because it's the next one. And after that, it'll be the bye week, and then coming back, then it's, we're getting ready for, I believe, Sunday Night Football. So that's what they're focused on. Yes, they know that if they handle business, everything else will fall into place where they need it to be because they're winning in division, they're playing good defense, and they're handling every test that's being given to them. And it's another test this weekend with Patrick Mahomes and his elusiveness and the way that he's able to scramble and really kind of find his receivers. And obviously the injury report came out on Wednesday, and we had a few players that did not practice, and we'll see their statuses for Sunday. But you are constantly trying to have that next man up mentality. But it's a big test for this defense when you're going against Patrick Mahomes and his offensive weapons that have been able to really make some plays down the stretch.
Yeah, and certainly Vance's defense has had success against Patrick Mahomes the last couple of years. I do think from what you're saying, kind of big picture, you mentioned the one-score game thing, and I think that is important. And I talk a lot about, hey, those one-score. Like, what did we say coming into this year? Hey, if you can just if you can go from 1-6 to 4-4 or whatever, that's a way to take a jump forward. Now the Broncos have already played more one-score games this year than they did all of last year. And so they're in more one-score games, and we're only through 10 weeks, but they're also winning them.
Yeah.
And when I talk about that flipping, it seems like, and kind of hear this from national reporters as well, eventually you would expect that to regress a little bit to the mean, but it doesn't always happen within a season. And sometimes there are teams that can just find a way in a season to keep that one-score magic going. And I think we saw that with the Chiefs last year. I believe they were 11-0 in one-score games last year.
It was it was to the point, where's that meme? Was like, they can't keep getting away with this. Like, that's truly how it was.
Yeah, and this year it's come back for them. They're 0-4 in one-score games. It's interesting. They're 5-4 this year. All 5 of their wins have been double-digit wins. They've won by at least 13 points. But when you're in these close games with them, they have yet to win a game, and they've lost by 6, 3, 3, and 7. So, if you're in a one-score game with them, for whatever reason, the ball has not quite bounced their way. They've not quite been able to make that one play. The Broncos hasn't always been pretty, but they've been able to make that one play, whether it's, knocking down a Hail Mary against the Eagles, getting that final stop against the Jets, the late field goal drive against the Giants. I mean, it could go on and on here, the scramble against the Texans, but they've found a way to do it. And next year, who knows what happens? Maybe the Broncos have this much success in one-score games. Maybe it comes back a little bit toward the pack. But for some reason, it seems like you can get on this streak during a season, and it doesn't necessarily go away. So I'll be interested to see this week is if this is a one-score game, does that trend continue? Because I very much think there's this element of the Broncos of they know how to win, and for whatever reason, the Chiefs have not been able to do that yet in these one-score games. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. And then, like you said, it won't be easy without some of these guys that you might not have this week. Pat Surtain not practicing, on Wednesday. J.K. Dobbins not practicing on Wednesday. Alex Singleton's not going to play this week. He announced earlier in the week. So that's 3 starters right there, and we know how important Pat Surtain is, obviously. And I think he might be – obviously you're going to miss – you would miss all those guys if they don't play.
1,000%.
And we'll talk about Dobbins' impact and kind of how the Broncos could go about replacing him. But I think the key thing defensively is to kind of work all the way back to, you mentioned the Mahomes thing, is if you can get pressure on Mahomes, there's a path to success there. When he's been pressured more than 25% of the time this year, he's 1-3, has a 55% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a 77 passer rating. When he's not pressured more than 25%, 4-1, 71% completion percentage, 14 touchdowns, 3 picks, and 114.8 passer rating. That is a huge difference there. Huge difference.
Yeah.
Now, it's worth noting the Broncos have a 42.9 quarterback percentage. It's the best in the league. It's the best since they started tracking that stat back in 2018. So it could be even longer that they're kind of the best at that. I think there are kind of 2 things I'll be interested in, because we saw Bonito have a lot of success last year against him. He's had success in the past. We've seen these guys get after Mahomes. For whatever reason, the Broncos have been really good in the red zone against the Chiefs. That has to continue. I think John Franklin Myers mentioned that in the locker room this week, but can you get pressure without blitzing? That's one thing. And then two, and this is where the Surtain injury comes into it, is that Rashee Rice coming back. Sean Payton talked about, hey, he's transformed kind of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Looks really special out there. We know the type of player he is. If you had Surtain there to lock down Rice, now maybe you're able to bring more pressure. It'll just be interesting to see how that, like, obviously the Broncos did it they found a way against Nico Collins. That was with a backup quarterback. They found a way against Dak with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. That was, that was great.
Yeah.
And then this past week, maybe you don't have the same number one receiver that the Raiders have. This week, you've got a top-tier quarterback. You've got a top-tier wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Without Surtain, how do you manage to contain him while getting pressure on Mahomes? Because you still have to find a way to get pressure. If you can find a way to do that and slow Rice down, which, like, if Rice is open, you're not going to be able to get to Mahomes because he's going to find him. But if you can find a way to take Rice away and pressure Mahomes, now I think you got a really good chance. And again, they're going to get their yards. They're going to get their chunks. Can you hold in the red zone? That's the big thing. If you can do that, you're going to be right in this game.
Yeah, Riley Moss, looking at his number, has been targeted more than any player in the NFL this season, 68 times. He's allowed a 45.6 completion percentage in coverage in 2025, which is the lowest in an NFL minimum of 40 targets. So what he's been able to do, really holding his own has been impressive. And you see the work that he's put in, because all training camp, he's always said, like, I'm learning as much as I can from Pat. And when you see the way that he's been playing and holding down that secondary and the way they're all communicating with each other and talking to the safeties with Huff and Brandon Jones, and the way that they're even, next thing you know, you have Huff getting a sack. It's like they're kind of playing everywhere. It's going to be a huge test for them, because Mahomes is, he didn't have his best game in week 9. He had a career low 44.1 completion percentage in that loss to the Bills, but he has a championship mentality. That doesn't really have much impact in this game, right? He can come out and, like you said, find his targets, and it's up to the defense to really kind of get after him. And I think Zach Allen has been a big part of that as well. I think we've talked a lot, as we should, about Nick Bonitto and Jonathan Cooper and what they've been able to do. But when you look at the tandem and the relationship that Zach Allen and Nick Bonitto have been able to do as well, I talked to him yesterday after practice, and he just said, like, I can't explain it. It's just special. Like, we are constantly communicating with each other out there on the field, and whatever, like, he doesn't see, like, I see, and vice versa, and we're able to play off each other. And that duo, I think, is going to play a big part, especially when you look at that game in Kansas City. Allen and Bonitto were really getting after Patrick Mahomes and making him uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah, and, we'll see if, obviously, their young left tackle is back at practice. We'll see if he plays. That would obviously make an impact there. But Bonitto, like I said, was really good. Zach Allen, really good. You're going to have to be in
really
Mahomes' face and, like, play one of your better games of the season. A couple other things kind of worth noting. Mahomes, and this could be, again, if you look at their schedule, the road teams they've played have been at the Chargers, at the Giants, at the Jags, at the Bills. I mean, they've played some good teams at home, the Ravens, the Lions, where even the Eagles, where Mahomes has had success. On the road this year, he's got just a 59% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's 1-3 in those road games. And against the Blitz this year, career lows in completion percentage, yards per attempt, and passer rating against the Blitz. So there might be a path here. You got the loud crowd. We know Bonitto and Cooper can time up those snaps when you're at home and the crowd is, they got to go silent count. That's a huge advantage for this defense, especially on third down. Denver leads the league in third down sacks, which is not really surprising since they lead the league in sacks in general by such a wide margin.
They lead the league in everything.
But, like, if you can use that noise to your advantage and get after Mahomes, I do think the one little nitpicky thing is that on the pass rush, we haven't seen a ton of, like, forced fumbles. And
talk about them turnovers.
And the other thing is that last year in Kansas City, I remember at least one play where it looked like Bonitto had Mahomes. He gets away, and then there was, like, a huge play it might have been to Samaje Perine, if I remember properly. And it was like, I don't think you can have those where you've got Mahomes and then he gets away. And he's going to make his plays too, but when those opportunities are there, can you get the ball out? Can you take him down for the sack instead of letting him wiggle away? Those are important. And one thing I guess to mention with him too is he's scrambling at a high rate this year. He leads the league in scramble yards, and that'll be something to pay attention to, especially if the Broncos play man. You don't want to let Mahomes, if he gets out of the pocket, kind of take off for 20, 30 yards down the field. He's good at that when he has the opportunity. So it's, we'll see if Isaiah Pacheco plays. He didn't practice on Wednesday for the Chiefs, but seems like they got almost everybody else back. It's a talented team, and you're going to have to find a way to play good defense. One guy to watch, and we mentioned Benito, we mentioned Zach Allen. Talanoa Hufanga has been just like a revelation for this defense. He is everywhere. He is near the line of scrimmage. He makes plays on the back end. He has been so much fun to watch. Yeah. And obviously for a long time here, Justin Simmons picked off Mahomes. I think he has the most interceptions against Mahomes of any player who's played against him. If Hufanga can make a similar impact or make some impact plays from the safety position, I just have a feeling that can maybe tilt this in Denver's favor. So watch for Talanoa Hufanga. He's been amazing to watch, and feel like he could have a real big impact in this one.
It's a race to 10, right? That's what a lot of guys are saying. Like once you get the 10th win, like you can kind of be in control of more things, and it all starts by building one win at a time. You talked about creating turnovers on Patrick Mahomes. He has 5 interceptions all season, but 3 of them have come in the last 2 games. He had 2 against Washington and then 1 against the Bills. And he was also sacked, I believe, 3 times against the Bills and 3 times against Washington. He's been sacked 17 times this season, compared to Bo Nix, who's only been sacked 10 times. So when you bring that pressure, there's a reason why this defense leads in sacks, why they lead in QB hits. I'm like looking at the numbers. It's like QB pressures, QB pressure percentage, players with 6+ sacks. There was like a stat in here which was insane. It was like 3 players with 6+ sacks, 9 players with 2+ sacks, 14 players with at least 1 sack. Like everyone's kind of getting in on the fun, where it's like, even if you find a way to escape, someone else is coming out to grab you and take you down. And I think that's one of the beauty of this defense and the way they're able to just play so well together and play complementary football. And that extends to the other side of the ball. You mentioned the fact of the Broncos are going to enter a bye week after this game. The Chiefs are coming out of their bye week. They're fully rested. Obviously, like you mentioned, they have a lot of good guys on the team that are healthy and ready to play. The Broncos have been on a tough stretch from a travel perspective. But how big was that mini reset for the mini bye week, and how this offense can respond in this matchup? Just having that 3-day period between Thursday night and going into week 11 compared to the Chiefs, who had their full bye week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think from a physical standpoint, there's probably an advantage to having the full bye week, just because you haven't played that extra game. And so even though you do get more rest after a Thursday game, you still have to play a game Thursday, and you doubled up on your body there. So there is certainly an advantage. But that said, it's better than if you just played Sunday and you're playing a team coming off their bye week. I think having those extra days, both physically and emotionally, are important, and it's a chance to reset. It's a chance to kind of get back to level. And then I think from a schematic standpoint, it gives you a little more time as coaches to get ready for this Chiefs attack. And offensively, now you've got a full week to game plan. And I still think, going back to Thursday, you're on a short week. You're game planning for a division rival. You just played a really tough physical Houston defense. Like, that to me felt like a game that, can you just grind it out? And I know that you want to see the team win by 30 or whatever, but like, you found a way to grind it out. And this week, I think Sean Payton always says this, there's a way to win every game. I think having a full week to prepare, Marvin Mims, a full participant in practice on Wednesday, I would not undersell his impact on this offense. And it's maybe worth noting that 2 of the games that the Broncos struggle a little bit offensively, they didn't have Marvin Mims. And so having him back, his ability to create misdirection out of the backfield, his speed, one of the things the Chiefs do really well is play aggressive, and they play man-to-man coverage and play cover 0. And Spags is a really good defensive coordinator, and he'll come at you from all different directions. And we saw some times last year where they brought pressure, and Bo was either sacked or intentional grounding calls. Like, they're going to get some plays, but at the same time, because they play so much cover 0, if you can have somebody on the outside beat their guy, and if that's a Mims with his speed, or the misdirection, or Troy Franklin with his speed. We saw Cortland Sutton on a 3rd down last year in Kansas City get open, and Bo deliver a dime for a touchdown. Those plays are available. And so it requires kind of everybody being in sync. It requires Bo Nix playing well. Listen, again, I think that reset is helpful for him as well. And Sean Payton was asked a little bit about his kind of the struggles that he's gone through. And he said it's on everybody. It's not just Bo. Penalties have to go down. Everyone has to be on the same page. Coaches have to put him in a better spot. And so I would think with this extra time, even just a little mini bye, that you'll see this offense come out looking sharper than it did on Thursday night against the Raiders. I feel pretty confident in that. Now, does that mean you're going to score 30 points against a good Chiefs defense? I don't know that it means that, but can you go put up 17, 20, which in a game like this against a division rival, when you have this sort of defense, that sort of game can be enough. And we'll kind of see how that all pans out. But yeah, I think the one thing that will be interesting is, one, how does Marvin's return help? But then also, if Dobbins doesn't play, what do you get from R.J. Harvey?
Yeah.
And we heard a lot from guys yesterday talking about how good R.J. Harvey's been, how he's only scratching the surface. But his contributions in the run game and the pass game, he hasn't gotten a ton of work. I think the last 5 out of the last 6 games, he's only had like 4 or fewer carries. But there's still been some touches for him. He's had 50 scrimmage yards in 2 of the last 3 games. I'm excited to see, and Sean Payton said he'll get some more opportunities. With those added opportunities, what does he do? What's he able to contribute? And if he can play at a high level, that'll obviously help Bo as well. And listen, it's going to be a grinded-out game. They're going to make their plays. They're a good defense. They bring pressure. They're going to get to the quarterback at times. They're going to hold on third down. But I think back to, and we only have a sample size of 1, really, because, again, that game last year, it's hard to, like, it counted, but it's hard to take stock in terms of how they're going to look against the first-string defense. But last year in Kansas City, Broncos got off to a fast start, needed to find a little bit more success in the third quarter. But then late in the game, they go on that long drive, and they do exactly what they want to do. Yeah. Bo Nix, I think, made one of the biggest throws of his career on that third down rollout to Cortland Sutton, where he kind of stepped up and delivered it to Sutton coming across the field to set up the field goal attempt. If they kick that field goal, we're talking about that as like a big-time moment in Bo's career. And I remember talking about that throw a lot. Yeah. We've seen him do it against this defense at home. Got to find a way to do it again and know that every possession counts. And I ultimately feel like in this game, the way it has, I have to go back and look, but they've been on this stretch where it's been a lot of close games against the Chiefs. And in the fourth quarter, for whatever reason, Bo has been at his best. And the Broncos' one-score success this year, the way Bo's played, this defense, just find a way to make one more play. And this one in particular, like, if you win this, the style points don't matter at all. The win will say enough. So got to try to find a way to make one more play on the offensive side of the ball.
You make a good point by saying to not underestimate Marvin Mims and the big explosive plays that he's able to produce on the field. Yesterday during pressers, Bo Nix, when talked about his approach to this game, he mentioned they have a really strong defense. They're going to provide a different challenge than what we've seen, and we got to execute on all levels. On offense, we got to run the ball efficiently. We have to do a good job completing passes, getting them in tackling situation, and then sustain drives with third down conversions. I think, and he mentions, like, that's going to help out our defense too. It's just extending those drives. And, Bo has had, like you mentioned, some success, and regardless of how you feel in terms of that last game, but in his first 2 career games versus the Chiefs, he totaled 6 touchdowns, no picks, with a pass rate of 138.4. Entering week 11, he has at least 1 touchdown pass in 18 consecutive games, which is the 5th longest streak by any player in his first 2 seasons in NFL history. And 6 of those touchdowns have been on deep passes, which ranks 3rd in the NFL. And that's where I think Marvin Mims comes into play, right? You've seen, when you look back at the film from that game in Kansas City, he had a huge play down the field to Cortland Sutton. And Corey is always ready and able to convert on those big plays. And we obviously, Troy, have seen him really step up. He leads the Broncos with 5 receiving touchdowns this season. But that's who you have to this is that kind of game, right? Where you need to catch them off guard and kind of hit them for that big play or get those long, chunks when you're really driving against this defense, because Chris Jones is going to try to get after Bo Nix, and he's going to have to find a way to maneuver that defense and get to his playmakers.
Yeah, their defense is really good, whether it's Chris Jones, George Karlaftis. You know, they find a way to make plays, and Bo had been on a streak where he wasn't really turning the ball over.
Yeah.
Got to get back to that. Obviously, can't have the strip sacks, can't have the picks. Just got to find a way to play clean football. But also, it's just little things where, like a penalty, you can't let a penalty put you back 10 yards and be facing 1st and 20 or wipe out a big gain. And you want to be able to control the clock. You don't want to let Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs team get shot after shot after shot. You can't go 3 and out. There's a lot of things you need to do, but at the same time, and whether the 8-2 record says it or not, the first 5 and 4, like, I don't think any Broncos fans should look at this game and think we can't do this, right? Like, we've seen them do this. We've seen the Broncos on the road, a very similar Broncos team play a very similar Chiefs team, and hold their own and be in position to win the football game. And you've seen them play well on the road against the Eagles. Like, we've seen them do what they need to do to win football games. And when you talk about the biggest thing I keep coming back to is when you talk about what makes Mahomes uncomfortable, and you see it in the stats, it's the pressure.
Yeah.
And Vance Joseph's defense has had good success against Mahomes. And like I said, I'll say it again, the red zone, Broncos are number 1 in the red zone this year, and they've been good against the Chiefs in the red zone the last few years. If you can get pressure against Mahomes and hold up in the red zone, this offense is definitely going to be able to do enough to be in this game. And again, it might come down to the final drive. It might be a nail biter. It might be, we might be shaking a little bit, wondering what's going to happen. But they're going to be able to be in this game and have a really good chance to win it. And I think the one thing that maybe pushes it, you should just have this home field advantage that has been so good.
Yeah.
And the things that you do to make home field advantage good are like keep the game close and make big plays to get the crowd excited and be in these games. And the Broncos have done that. And then in these key moments, you're drawing false start penalties, or you're forcing a timeout, or it's so loud that Benito can time up the snap count. Those things all matter. And man, that place is going to be absolutely rocking on Sunday.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things I think with this entire season. I mean, obviously the Broncos are 5-0 at home. They're one of 2 teams this season that have been undefeated at home. The other team is the Colts, who obviously are just right up there in the AFC, standing at 8-2, who have their bye week this week. But again, rivalry games are important. I remember going down for the halftime show with Steve, and we're trying to see what play's going to happen. And boom, like Pat Bryant gets hit for a long pass, and everybody the entire stadium just erupted, and that's what they needed. And Huff, I talked to him after the game too, and I said, "This is your first rivalry game. Like, how much fun did you have out there? Like, regardless of the score, like, how much fun did you have out there?" And he was like, "Man, I had a lot of fun." He was like, "There were times where I literally could not hear the call." And he was like, "But that's a good thing. We want that." He's like, "We want more of that." And they're really buying into just the fact that our fans are going to make it as difficult as possible, whether it's the stomping or the yelling or the orange wall or whatever, to make it as uncomfortable as possible. And with Patrick Mahomes coming to town, knowing how he's been able to really take control of this division over the last 2 years, the Broncos want to make that change. And in order to do that, you have to knock off that big AFC West rival. There's no other way around it.
Yeah, and I mentioned the Vance Joseph stat. Since he came back in 2023, the Broncos have allowed 19 points, 9 points, and 16 points to Patrick Mahomes. Wow. So, I mean, you're talking about, I don't have the handy-dandy calculator off the top of my head, but doing some quick math, I believe that's less than 15 points a game. So the defense has held its own. And now, granted, that's been with Pat Surtain. We haven't seen them play the Chiefs without Pat Surtain. But the way that Denver has held up against Houston, Dallas, the Raiders without Pat, I think it speaks to the fact that this defense still can hang in there. Obviously, won't have Alex Singleton, but Dre Greenlaw, Justin Hernandez played really well when he's needed to fill in there. So those are all kind of reasons that I believe in this Broncos team to be able to go out and get a win. And I don't know, I'd have to dig deep and find some more research of how Mahomes has done against other coordinators, but I can't imagine there's been, many teams that have held him to that sort of output. So we'll see what happens this Sunday from a defensive standpoint. And then, hey, from a national perspective, I think that's the only thing we haven't really chatted about so far is like everyone just spent the last 10 days kind of talking nonsense about the Broncos despite the 8 wins. And that's a nice way of putting it. Go beat the Chiefs and like get everyone to quiet down a little bit, right? Because if you do that, you're 9-2. You've got to win over they've been in the Super Bowl 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row. That would send a message that not just are you like ready to win the AFC West, but you're ready to be a Super Bowl contender and a real Super Bowl contender. And we know every year there's playoff teams that there's a group that can win the Super Bowl and there's a group that maybe has an outside chance. And I think you take a step into that real category if you can get a win like this. It's not overstating it to say it's the biggest regular season game since Super Bowl 50, just in terms of what it could mean if you win this football game. And then it's all the things that we talked about that, hey, you're now competing for home field advantage throughout the playoffs, because if you beat this team, then you look and you say, we can beat anybody on our schedule. Yeah. And the other thing is, like Sean Payton mentioned this in January, we got to find a way to get these games at home. If you play the Chiefs now, play the Chiefs in December, play the Chargers again, it's entirely possible that if the Broncos win the division, or regardless, that you're going to end up playing the Chiefs or the Chargers again in the postseason. And to have that game at home would be such an advantage, especially in the postseason. So that's where these games kind of really matter is hey, winning the division is you get the hat and all that is fun, but also having that home playoff game. And like if you were the 2 seed right now, you're guaranteed 2 home playoff games. And then if somebody upsets the number 1 seed, now you're sitting there hosting the AFC Championship if you win. So this really matters. And I go back to 2015 when
was the last time they won the division.
Won the division, and obviously won the Super Bowl. Going into that last week, it was no guarantee the Broncos were going to have home field advantage because the Patriots, it looked like we're going to get it. Patriots lose to a Miami team that was not good, and they kind of let that one falter. The Broncos come back and win against the Chargers. They win the division. They secure home field throughout the playoffs, and they will tell you how important that was in terms of getting through a gauntlet there and getting to the Super Bowl. And so, winning this game doesn't guarantee anything, but it gives you a huge boost toward what your goals are. And, man, I cannot wait for this one. This is as excited for a football game as I've been in a long time. Like this is going to be a great game. Hopefully the Broncos can make just enough plays to come out on top.
As you mentioned, it's just going to set you up for success. And obviously you don't know what's going to happen, but you've been on this long stretch. I was reading one of your articles.
Thanks.
And you wrote that the Broncos have played 6 games in their last 33 days, 10 games before a bye, or a mini bye is the longest stretch on the Broncos schedule since 1990. There's a 19 in front of that. Keep in mind we're in 2025. So it's been a while.
Nobody else that we work with was even born.
That's crazy.
Nobody else in our department.
Oh
like gosh. One other person.
That's actually crazy. But you look at just like what this means and what you're playing for. And you know it's a good game when the research packet is like
thick.
It's thick. It's like 10 pages. I did print this for you because I know how much you like numbers.
Oh, I saw that.
I know how much you like numbers and breaking down the percentages of that.
9-2.
What does that mean?
Gives you a 75% chance of winning the division. 20% of those teams have won the Super Bowl. I have another stat ready for after the game. I'm not going to share it now, but it's a good stat. It's a good stat. It actually applies to 8-2 teams as well.
Are you going to hold it for our instant analysis after the game?
If the Broncos win. It applies to 8-2 teams, and it also applies to 9-2 teams.
Oh, a little dual action there.
Dual action. I could have tweeted it last week, but then I didn't have the stat yet. And then I went and found it.
Did it come to you in a dream?
I was just thinking about, hey, what about this? What about this? Because it happened after there was some complaining going on in the internet. I don't know if you saw that, but there was some complaining.
Really?
I was just thinking about the Broncos started 8-2. That feels pretty good to me. I'm just a simple writer, but that feels pretty good to me. And so I looked it up just for some context, and I'll share what I found. after the game.
Yeah, well, stay tuned for that, Broncos country. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Altitude Advantage. Once again, a reminder that kickoff is on Sunday against the Chiefs at 2:25 p.m. Mountain Time. If you're going to the game, make sure you guys get there early. We're going to need you in the crowd to bring that energy. And as always, for everything leading up to the game, whether it's Breakdown, Broncos HQ, and so much more, make sure you guys visit denverbroncos.com. Continue to tell your friends about the show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Comment so that Aric can read them. Not really live, but you can read it.
Pretty close.
It's one of your favorite things. All right. One of my favorite things to do is close this out so we can wait for game day. So once again, I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, we have our research guru and so many other things. Our lead writer on denverbroncos.com, Aric DiLalla. Once again, appreciate you guys and stay tuned on denverbroncos.com.